Hello everyone and welcome back to PT Live. My name is Steve Goodman, Training Coordinator at Protected Trust. Today we are going over the topic of building the modern office with the specific topic of Skype for Business and Cloud PBX. Joining me, as you have already seen, is Ingram Levy, CEO of Protected Trust, and our special guest today is Sean Jacobs.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, who is our resident expert on Skype. So we always like to start with our story.
Yes.
Ingram. So tell us more about Skype and how we got introduced to Skype.
Well, good question. We've had lots of different phone systems over the years. We kind of embraced the voice over IP technology early on, and we probably were early adopter to a lot of the cloud services that existed at the time, like 8x8 or things like that. The quality of the voice wasn't so great, so over time we ended up building our own PBX or VoIP PBX, and we used systems like Asterisk and then later a system called Digium, and it worked really well. I mean, they worked well. What we ended up finding is you had to get a dedicated provider and have like dedicated lines. It was different than buying just phone lines in a traditional PBX, but in this one we bought these VoIP lines from a dedicated circuit from a provider. And that worked well for a while. And Sean ran most of those systems. And
is that how you're so good with PBX?
That's probably part of it. I've got a little bit of history there, yeah.
But with us going to Office 365 and an offering by Microsoft and the 365 family or platform, it offered a solution where we could basically upgrade our communications to a more modern voice system. So it's not only just the voice like a traditional phone system, but it also utilizes the computer, utilizes the phone. It has instant messaging, has video conferencing. So there were a lot of things that it offered. Plus, it also integrated with everything we already had. So all the credentialing, the username, passwords, and the way we authenticate was all in the same platform.
Right. So to summarize, you weren't satisfied with the current options of cloud PBX options, so you decided to make your own PBX.
Yes.
By buying all the equipment,
yes,
including all the expenses.
Yes.
So even though you improved the quality of the sound, the expenses racked up.
Yeah, it's still running a server. It sat in a data center.
Mm-hmm.
It had hard drives that failed. It needed power. It
so
had
constant monitoring, constant
it
support.
had to have a warranty on it. Expensive software licensing on the system took a lot of expertise to understand how to run it. It really was like one person that really knew how to run it.
And it was a lot more complicated. It was very complicated. Yeah.
And what would happen if you weren't there?
Well, as long as nothing needed to be changed or nothing went wrong, it worked great. But when things needed to be changed or things went wrong, it was a matter of getting into that proprietary system and going and making changes. And there weren't very many of us like here. There weren't very many of us that were actually familiar with the system. So we were kind of really specialized.
So Sean said something yesterday. Was like that you said in most PBX systems there's usually the same username and password default.
Oh, sure, well. Yeah.
And typically it gets compromised, right? So
sure.
Then people we've had the issue in the past where our phone got someone guessed the password for it, which is pretty easy to do, and then could make their own phone calls from it. So then we had this issue where people could use our system to make their phone calls from. Which was another kind of headache, or it's a way that we were being attacked on our PBX. So.
Yeah, for a long time we had all of our phones, like the phones themselves had a default password on them, and that's what caused that issue. So we had to go through, and that was hours of work to go in and correct that issue. That we, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So now with it all being integrated with all our credentialing, that's not an issue anymore. And also with having the advanced threat analytics that we have now, it can determine if there's some sort of brute force attack happening to it or not, really to the accounts, not to the PBX system itself.
So now we don't have to worry about monitoring the hardware. And
right, it's a service. It's in the cloud. It works. If you have a traditional phone set like I brought here today, this is actually my phone off my desk. Mm-hmm. You can plug it in, connect it all up. It works anywhere in the world. I can take it to my house. It works. I can have two of these phones, one at my house and one at my office, and they both, when the phone call comes in, they both ring. Likewise on my phone, my mobile phone, I have the Skype client. This phone rings as well, so I can answer the phone from anywhere. Including my computer, which is really how I use it most of the time now. I rarely use the phone now, and I use mostly my computer. and I'm actually doing more video calls than I was before, just because I like to see people's faces.
Well, the major point that at least I want to drive across in today's live stream is how everything really is interconnected. So we've kind of gone over that with OneDrive and SharePoint and how it connects with everything, but now we're saying that not only that, but your chat client and your phone system can now all be one thing. And not only that, but like you said, I can access it on my phone, I can access it on my desk phone, I can access or cell phone, and I can access it on my computer. There's just so many ways that the excuse for, I'm not at my desk, it doesn't hold up anymore.
Yeah. Another nice thing about it is that, like the calendar, you know how an Outlook is, like it runs our lives. It has my calendar, knows what I'm supposed to be doing, where I'm supposed to be. But my phone now does the same thing. It knows what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be. So my calendar is integrated into the phone. Even on my desktop phone, right before this live stream, it popped up a message saying, "Hey, live stream meeting invite," which you had sent me, was on the screen. And at the same time, if I look on my phone, it's the same thing on my Skype. It tells me that there's a meeting, and if I need to join like say we had a conference that we had set up, I hit a button and I'm in the conference meeting. So I don't have to know how to dial in our code or anything, so it just happens.
So no more running to
Yes.
the meeting, because it's all, you can all do it from your telephone or your telephone. Look at me, sounding like an old man over here. From your cell phone or your desk phone. And not only that, but with the related calendaring, the issue used to be, at least for me, is like when you're working from home and you're not at the office and you try to call someone who's at the office, and the phone either just goes right to voicemail or you can't get a hold of the person. So where's the person? And so because the calendar integrates with Skype for Business, you could just go onto your Skype client on either on your desk phone or your computer, and see, well, is the person in a meeting? Is the person busy?
It gives you presence information. Right when I'm sitting at my phone or on my computer, I can see whether you're in a conference call or you're available. So I have presence indicator. And actually, Sean's done something really cool with presence too. You might want to talk about.
Yeah,
Can we see it? No, we can't.
They're probably hiding behind the monitors, but I made. It's basically a little device that just lights up an LED next to my machine, based off of my Skype
Presence.
The presence. So when I'm on a phone call, the light goes red, and people know not to come over and bug Sean.
It's hard to know if Sean's on the phone sometimes since he wears a headset.
Right.
So this stuff integrates with like Bluetooth devices as well. And so Sean will be walking around the office with a headset, and sometimes you're not sure if he's on a call, but if you see his little light red, you know he's on a call.
And like you were saying, I actually haven't even plugged in. I haven't even plugged in my phone since I've moved my desk. I've only been using the everything through my laptop, and it works great. I've got the headphones or the headset connected to my laptop, and I like to wander when I'm talking.
Yeah.
So,
another thing we've done that I think it's really helped us too is that it's not just making phone calls; it's about doing video conferencing. And to me, that's one of the big advantages of this, how us all working together better, is that now I get on a call or a conference call and I can see everyone's faces and their reactions to everything. And a little teaser is a lot of the stuff is getting integrated into Teams, and so like whiteboarding and sharing presentations or annotating things live, like in different offices or different locations, that you can all do this, interact with the same content. One of my favorite things is just our conference room, which we should probably show our audience at some point. But we have a big monitor with the a Trio Polycom phone, which basically does the video conferencing, and so you can get up there and you can see the whole room at once. And then if we are contacting someone in another office, they can see everybody and everyone's reaction all at once. So to me, the video conferencing is, you think it's not a big feature, or you've heard of people doing video conferencing and it kind of like it's hokey or doesn't work. This stuff really works, and especially when I use my computer, it works really well. It just works every time, and I don't have to think about it. It's just there.
and we tried many different ways to do video conferencing over the years, and I think this is the first time that it's always just worked. Where other times we would spend half of our allocated meeting time trying to figure out why we couldn't see somebody somewhere.
Yeah, that's especially in the first 5 minutes or even 10 minutes of a meeting, is it's like the 10 minutes of setup trying to get the phone to work. That's the most frustrating thing.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, it's a common joke now, the conference call bingo.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't seen it, just Google conference call bingo, and you will have seen.
You could probably put a link in the bottom of this.
Yeah,
video.
we'll include a link to.
There's a couple funny videos.
And yeah, so it's like, so is every. I forgot what they
bingo.
were. So is everyone here? That eliminates that one. or-
Right.
Got,
You've got your whole list of different things that
I got
people
my computer
always
right
say.
here. So
So,
probably look it up. Don't mind me.
just leave a link.
Yeah, well, we'll just leave a link.
It's funny.
So yeah, it helps eliminate all that, and because you could see the person actually there, and you can see the person participating, and yeah, usually it's the long awkward pause when you ask a question and you're not sure if the
They're there or
person's
not.
there or not. So it helps eliminate that as well.
Something we've done in our company is ask everyone when we do these video call or do conference calls that we all use video, and I just like that idea that we're having more human interaction than just us being on our phones and just hearing voices. It's seeing people's faces, seeing their reactions, seeing how they act is much more useful and makes us all feel closer together as a family than it does just being on a regular phone call.
Right. So Sean, can you spend the rest of the time? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No. So you recently did a phone migration.
I did.
What's the technical term for a phone migration? And don't tell me it's phone migration.
I think I would call it a phone migration. Basically, we migrated a client from they were currently using a traditional PBX. That
was it like the one we had that set up, or was it a cloud PBX?
I think it was a hosted PBX. I don't think it was a device that they had. It was something that was managed by somebody else. So I don't even know if they had the ability to go in and make the kind of changes that we used to make on our own. But we migrated them from that system to Skype for Business, and everything seemed to go pretty well. Everything seemed to go pretty well. Basically, we had to port a bunch of different phone numbers. We ported a bunch of different phone numbers over to the new system, and got them set up so that they were prepared to make phone calls via their laptops and mobile devices, and have a set of phones that are in the process of being delivered to them. But I mean, like we said, you really don't even need the phone. The phone's just a convenience if you want to actually have that kind of phone.
And
really not necessary.
We described you as the beginning as our PBX expert, but do you need to be a PBX expert in order to utilize Skype for Business or administer?
I would say no. Once the setup for it isn't really that difficult. It's certainly a lot less difficult than other things that I've used in the past. But especially once it's up and running, things are really, really easy to use. Like if we wanted to, like for example, an example I was talking about earlier was, say we get a new employee needs a new phone number. Getting those types of things set up is really easy, and adding somebody to, we've got our call group out there for support. Adding somebody to a call queue in Skype for Business is as easy as adding them to a distribution list. It's not like going into this PBX system that you only look at once a year and figuring out where that setting was. It's like it's the support queue DL. Let's add the person to that list, and then they can get phone calls.
And I think a lot of questions we get too about setting it up is the IVR, and it's a complicated thing to set up it initially, but as long as you know what path you're going down.
Sure. The best idea is to kind of go into it with a plan. So, but most companies' IVRs are pretty flat. You call in, you have a nice greeting that says, thanks for calling us. Press 1 to go to sales. Press 2 to talk to Bob. You want to things like that. Matching that kind of setup in Skype for Business is really easy. Going in and routing calls to queues and actually setting things up for handling calls during business hours and outside business hours. All of that stuff is really easy to set up, especially in comparison to other things that I've.
One thing, there's no extensions either.
Oh yeah.
So when you call in the main number, you just dial by name, and since you're added, it just knows who you are.
Right.
And internally, when we want to make a phone call to somebody, we're not typing in 5105. That used to be my extension. Is it just type in Sean or Steve or whoever it is, and just type their name in, and it finds them.
Or if a client calls into the system, instead of having to know somebody's extension, like when our greeting picks up, when the auto attendant picks up, you just say Ingram Leedy and it goes to his phone. And because it uses voice recognition for the what's the word? Always been a word. For
the Alexa feature.
for the Alexa feature. So instead of having a dial by name directory where you have to go in and type, INGRA, you just have that voice directory where, as soon as it picks up, you say, Ingram, and it calls Ingram. That I think is a really neat feature.
There's a question on our chat. It says, they're a current client of our system and thinking about going to Skype, but they're wondering about will it work with external domains or external companies, the Skype service, or like
Sure.
Skype for Business?
Sure, yeah. As
Are they talking about the actual desktop client where you can chat, or are they talking about the
Probably all of it. Probably mostly the Skype video conferencing is probably the thing. If you're talking about Skype externally, would be that you can you make a Skype call to another Skype user externally.
Sure, yeah. It's just a matter of getting things set up correctly so that you can actually communicate with them. But yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Plus, you have the traditional phone system itself, which is an option to call out on a regular phone line, much like Skype has as an option too. But this
Sure.
is Skype for Business. Like, what would be, in your mind, what's the difference between Skype and Skype for Business?
the difference between Skype and Skype for Business.
Because it's confusing to me, because it's like...
Okay. I see what you're saying.
I mean, Skype for Business is like the free personal thing.
No, Skype is.
Skype, sorry.
Well, Skype you would only have like chatting and video calls, but Skype for Business, well, you've got the voice to begin with.
The integration with the IVRs, the phone lines.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. More of an enterprise solution. Ties
It's
in with
definitely
our
more of an
Active
enterprise
Directory or
solution.
our user credentialing.
Yeah, but let's say you didn't want to go the full route of setting up cloud PBX. What's the new name for it? Because it recently changed.
Now it's, if you look at the licensing, they're just calling it phone system.
That's boring.
In PBX, right? Phone PBX or something like that.
I think now it's just called phone system.
Yeah,
so.
it's better because it was called PSTN, which is
right, for the licensing it was PSTN domestic, and now it's just domestic calling. Yeah.
Right.
So they have options as far as the licensing for domestic calling and international calling, of course, and the what's the other the conference room?
Yeah, it has a conference bridge as well, which is another thing that you typically would go to an outside vendor. You probably set up even with our old PBX, we still bought an outside conferencing vendor bridge,
right?
Which had its own cost as well, and so now we that's all integrated. And now, what's nice about the conference bridge, it's integrated with Outlook and Teams, is that when you create an invite, you can invite them as a Skype meeting. So then all they have to do is click the link, and they're in the video conferencing room.
Or in the conference room, when we invite that conference room account to a meeting, it's you go in there and
hit the button.
Just hit the button, and it's in the conference. There's no dialing a number and getting a pin. It's just you hit the button. It says, "Okay, the meeting's right now."
Just works.
Yeah, just works. So
Yeah, the trainer in me wants to go over all the features and bells
wait,
and whistles.
wait for that.
But
It's more about the why and why people want to use this stuff.
so we'll do that. We recently had a talk about our Wi-Fi, right? Using how our Wi-Fi was broken, and so we recently published a highlight video going over the Meraki dashboard to show all those features. So I think after this live stream, I'll start working on something like that for everyone to see all the different features. The question about can you use Skype to contact people external to your organization? So. The answer was yes to both of the questions, whether it was the PBX or whether it was just using the Skype client for chat. But let's say you didn't want to go the full route of using the PBX, right?
Okay. Yeah, you can do that.
You could do that. So you want to have a video conference, right? But the person's external to your organization, and you don't have the audio conferencing enabled. You don't have that license for your organization. The cool thing about Skype for Business is it will provide a temporary download for that external person to use Skype for that video call. And I just think that
that's cool.
It's cool, and it allows
more adoption, more use of it,
more adoption, and just a foolproof way to get your work done. Because that used to be a barrier people would run into is. I don't have this software, therefore we can't communicate with each other.
This is one of those big pillars, and it seems very traditional, but yet when you add it to this 365 platform, it really wakes up everything, and it all connects it together. And so what you're going to see is Skype for Business become more of a thing called Teams, which is the file sharing. it's the collaboration, it's the outlook, it's everything working together in one cohesive synergy. And it'll just make you working together much easier, and just make, and the bottom line, more productivity. So I think in an organization, I think it's really helped out a lot, is bringing us closer together and making us feel like we're just right next to each other, when sometimes we are, and
Even
sometimes
we're
we're
not.
not.
Yeah, so in the future, we'll be saying teams when we want to.
Yeah, and it's kind of in the middle right now. There's this Teams concept is just starting, and it's probably going to be at least a year before it's fully integrated. But right now, the Skype for Business is the name of the service. But it's very, very functional. It's very usable. We took our whole support call center, which was a scary thing. We get several hundreds of calls a week, and we basically migrated the whole thing over, and it works just as well as it did before,
And it
better.
went really smoothly.
Yeah,
Overall,
really
it went really well.
Yeah, I would say that it's like you were asking me earlier about, is this a full-fledged PBX? Yes, it is, but there are some things that are missing from it, and they're very things that really large call centers would use. For 95% of businesses out there, this thing works just perfectly out of the box. Of course, it does need an expert to set it all up.
Yeah, one of the biggest complaints we have is the dictation software for voicemails. So that still needs some work as well.
Oh, you mean where it translates?
Where it
yeah.
is
That's one of my favorite features, because you get on there and it tells you exactly what someone said in an email before you actually go and listen to it.
It's always worked really well for me. It
Has it?
definitely. I mean, it's not always 100% perfectly transcribed, but
Get the
there's
gist.
enough that I can get the gist of what that phone call was
It's
about.
I
always-
like reading it versus listening to a very long voicemail.
Yeah.
right, because my go-to now is just to look at the phone, see who called, wait for the voice message, then call back.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have adopted that. But it's fun to go around the office and show people, like, hey, look at the voice message I have, and see. It still needs a little bit more.
I think a lot of people wait for that voicemail now just because of all the spam callers that are happening these days.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to answer their mobile phone anymore.
So, Sean, as the PBX expert, you give the Skype for Business PBX a score of A+, 10 out of 10.
I'll give it
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
That's good
So,
enough for me. Ingram, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just the whole idea here is that this keeps us working together in a much more productive way, and upgrading our communications to something like Skype for Business and Teams really just helps us work more efficiently together, helps us share information, helps us collaborate on them. It's just a wonderful tool to have in our arsenal when we're trying to get things done.
I agree. We will leave it at that. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. And please show your support by leaving a like or click the subscribe button if you would like to be notified the next time we post a video or do a live stream. Again, these live streams are every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:30 p.m. And once again, thank you to our clients whose support allows us to make these videos. Thank you.